I don't really know what I'm doing. It's sort of just like a bit of a rant. There's no, you can see my mouse. There's no like general direction or intent. I don't really know what I'm doing. It's just I felt like having a rant, and I don't really to rant to because it's 2:11 in the morning. So I thought I'd just have a rant, and I guess we'll start now. I mean, recently in school I've been excluded, which obviously isn't very good. The behavioural reasons. That's another thing that I'll get into in a minute. But I'm going to this new place. It's like a provisional education centre, and I'm fairly optimistic actually. I think it might do quite a bit better than real school or actual school, because the building itself is loads nicer. It's like it just gives me a better feeling when I'm inside because it's got a skylight and there's loads of light coming in. There's loads of natural light, and the building itself is surrounded by loads of trees. And I feel like environment is very important when you're trying to learn something. And also there's smaller classrooms as well, so there's less people in the class that I'd be in, which is good for me because obviously I need more support, because right now the GCSEs I'm not doing horribly, but I'm not very motivated like with maths. I think that's just beyond saving at this point. With other things like English, I love English, and it gets me really upset when when you like really or think you're good at something or you like something, and then you don't do as good as you usually do in it, and it just gets really upset. That's something I get with English. And same with history. English and history I really like. I like media as well. I do engineering, but why I don't even know why I chose that. That was a horrible idea because I can promise you I'm not an engineer. I've got a nice idea. I was making a shield, but I can't finish the coursework anymore because I've been excluded. I'm not too bothered about that. Science, horrible at science, and I don't even go there. Maths, I'm bad, but I know I need to try, so I'm sort of getting better at it. But yeah, that's the situation with school. I'm quite glad that I'm gone, honestly, because I had quite a lot of people at school that didn't necessarily like me. Quite a lot of people did, because obviously I'm a bit outspoken, whatever, but some people don't like me, and I'm not surprised because I'm not exactly very likable in some aspects, quite a lot of aspects, but it's a acquired taste. I don't know, but yeah. Another rant I'm going to go on is about one of my favourite films, and that's Naked by Mike Leigh. Just by the fact that you had to say the director's name after the film name to show that it isn't very widely known. It isn't like a really niche film. I feel like at one point it was fairly well known, but especially with sort of the people my age, nobody really knows about the film unless I've told them about it. I've never had an encounter with someone my age that knows the film, so that's what I'm specifying the director after I said the name of the film. Anyways, I really like the film. I did my GCSE English essay on it, which is like a spoken speech. Yeah, a spoken speech that you had to do, a spoken presentation you had to do about the film, or about whatever you like. Just it could have been anything, and I decided to do about Mike Leigh's Naked because I feel like it's a very complex film. It's interesting as well. I like it. Basically, it's about the main antagonist, Johnny, is sort of narcissistic, loquacious, like radical in some. I won't say radical. I'd say he's just a bit delusional. We don't really talk about his politics. We don't really hear about his politics. There is a few like brief, like touches over some aspects of British society, but that's all just in general conversation. It doesn't really reflect. But I think the bigger picture is his ideas and things like philosophy and existence in general, and I like that. I'm into philosophy and stuff. Sort of. I'm not very good at it, and I don't really have many ideas on it, but we do. And yeah, my favourite quote comes from that film. Hold on, let me get it up. Actually, now I forget my phone because I'm putting it on this. What was I saying? Yeah, is it sort of this loquacious, intellectual, or what's it called? That's it. Fuck's sake. Something like that. It'll come up. Yeah, this is it. Resolve was never stronger than in the morning after the night when it was never weaker. I love that quote, and I can sort of relate to it because it sort of highlights, I'm going to use the term flesh, which is used quite a lot in the Holy Bible. Flesh sort of represents our body, and it separates our soul from our body, and it sort of distinguishes what makes us sin, and that's our human form, our material form, because ultimately our soul is one with God because we're created in the image of God, but because we have autonomy, our flesh, our body, taints us, I guess. That's what I think it is, unless I've been misinformed, but I don't know. I feel like these rants are just a bit, they're not true. They might be true in some ways, but they're just sort of like my inner monologue, externalised. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like it's relating to the flesh, because in the moment you're less sort of intact. I don't know if that's the right word. Like you're not in the right presence of mind. You've not got a clear head of mind. You're biased to a situation that's going on, and you have no resolve at that moment because you're looking to gain what that is, whether it's good or bad. I don't know. I think a good example is like, let's say you had a drink. At the night it's nice, you get drunk, but then in the morning you wake up and then obviously it's miserable because you've got a hangover. I think that's a good example of what this means, and obviously it can be used in other sort of like ways. I don't know what I'm going on about now. I lost track, but yeah, I like that quote because it talked about the flesh and how it like misleads us, and how it's only until the consequences are shown that we want to change, which I can relate to. But yeah, more on about the film. Basically, Johnny, at the start of the film, there's this scene where Johnny's like sexually assaulting a woman, which I think is very important for the film because it sort of sets a pretext for the rest of the film and gives us an image on Johnny himself. And it'll lead into another theme within the film, which is forgiveness. And we'll get into that more later, but anyways, he sort of has a few relationships with, well, first of all, his ex's roommate, Sophie. And Sophie's a bit like, she gets attacked very easily. She's a bit self-conscious, but Johnny, I feel like the reason Johnny didn't stick with Sophie is because Sophie wasn't as intelligent, maybe, or didn't necessarily fulfill his needs in the way he wanted. And that's why I sort of feel like Johnny left Sophie. And then he sort of has a tangent on the streets where he just goes about sort of talking to different people and stuff. And in these scenes, you can sort of see Johnny's, like his thought process, because he needs to secure his card Brian, and Brian's like Johnny in quite a few ways, because in different ways, but they're similar in some ways because of different reasons. Basically, what I'm saying. They're both fairly isolated. Brian's isolated because his job is a nighttime security guard in this like complex building, and Johnny is isolated because he's sort of just been neglected his entire life by his parents, which isn't directly referred to, but it's more inferred by the way he talks about his mother and his father. And also in an interview with Mike Lee, I believe, don't quote me on this, I think he said something about him having a rough upbringing, which by the way makes sense because it explains some of his behaviours. Anyways, yeah, we can see how Johnny and Brian are fairly similar because they have the same, they read the same material, they have the same interests. Like they both read the Bible, they both got ideas on philosophy. That their ideas on philosophy are conflicted, but to find some that's interested in philosophy to the same extent is pretty pretty rare, I guess, because not a lot of people, average people are, because these people ultimately are the working class and the underclass, so it's not very common, I guess, in that way. But anyways, Johnny sort of goes on a bit of a tangent to him. We sort of see his views on the world, and it sort of links in with his narcissism. In some ways, I feel like it's not nihilism, that's what I mean, not narcissism, nihilism. We see his nihilism because there's a quote, I'll get it up, hold on. I thought, no, because I'm going to take too long and it's going to be embarrassing because it's going to be a big pause. I'll improvise. He says something like, no, God doesn't love you, God despises you. And he's followed up on this a bit before and a bit after, but what he means is, they both agreed on one thing, and that's that we have multiple existences. And Johnny basically said that for evil, good exists to be fucked up by evil, which I sort of agree with, because if you think about it, good just creates contrast between bad. So because good doesn't last forever, that is more or less true. And when good gets fucked up, bad prevails, and then the contrast from the bad situation sort of feeds into the bad, and it makes the bad worse in some ways, because when you're upset and then you think about good times and you realise that you don't have them good times, it makes you more upset. But then in the same way, it can be sort of applicable to the alternative. But I think it's more based on, is there more suffering or is there more joy in the world? I don't know, it depends where it is, but I feel like there is a lot of suffering in the world. Like, because of war, because of domestic abuse, because of whatever. There's a lot of suffering in the world, so I do sort of agree with that. I don't know, that's sort of my interpretation, and whatever, I'm a bit gullible, but that's just me. But anyways, I like how we can sort of see into Johnny's thought process, his sort of opinions on things. And then another example of us seeing into Johnny, and this is more of his personal side, him being a bit showing his insecurities, is when there's this man on the street, this poster man, he's not named, but Johnny goes in a bit of a rant to him, a fairly incoherent. He starts like smacking his head on the wall, saying it's the way to life. He's obviously not being serious when he's talking about it, but he's sort of like, I don't know, it's just a bit of a vent, a bit of a frustration. That's a common theme throughout the film, because Johnny likes to vent his feelings to unsuspecting people. He doesn't even realise that he's doing it, he just sort of does it without realising. But anyways, there's this scene where Johnny gets into the van, and upon leaving the van he leaves his bag in the van, and upon tormenting this postman for long enough, the postman gets pissed off, pushes him onto the floor, and sort of drives off without realising that he's taken his bag. But inside of that bag has all his books. Now, Johnny's a very like intellectual person, he's very clever. So I feel like when he lost his only source of knowledge, he just feels miserable. He's angry, and we can see this. It's reflected because he's kicking about, he's screaming, and I feel like it's a very iconic scene, and it just really shows us who Johnny is and what Johnny is, and his sort of his emotions. It's also notable that all Johnny really has is his brain. He's not very, he's scruffy. He's got no permanent home at this part of the film. He technically does, but like he's not there because he was fleeing from persecution at the start of the film for the sexual assault. But he's sort of left alone, like on the streets. He doesn't have a permanent residence, and he's just not really got much going for him. He's sort of just like a hit rock bottom. The only attribute he has is his brains. So I feel like that's why it's just so bad for Johnny losing his books. And we can also see throughout the film he sort of criticises people for taking advantage of knowledge, because there was this one woman, she had loads of books on this shelf, and he pointed it out, and he just said, you could tell that he was thinking, you're a fucking idiot, you've not read these books. That's what I thought, that's what I made of it anyways. But yeah, and I just feel like it's linking back to the point I made at the beginning about forgiveness. Personally, I feel like we can forgive Johnny. He's been morally despicable, but with things like this, I think of why they are the way they are, and could they be forgiven if they were given perspective, other perspectives and aid, because people do change. I believe that people can change, and I feel like Johnny could change because he's smart enough, and he just take time and take care, because we are showing like a sensitive side of Johnny, and it does exist. He's not this titan, he is a person, and I do see that. I do believe that we can forgive him, considering he's had a rough upbringing. He's basically homeless. You know, he's got nothing to his life. He's fucked up beyond most people fucking up do, you know what I mean? He's just miserable, and I do believe if he reformed, he could be forgiven. I mean, that's a controversial take, but that's what I think. But yeah, that's sort of my rant over about the film. I just really like the film. I love the aesthetic of the film. I like what it means, and I've watched it about 50 times. I just like the film, and I can like I know like lines off by heart and stuff. It's a bit sad, but I like it. So yeah, I think that's my rant and my video over. I don't really know why I made this, but I have, and I don't know if I'll make another. I might not, and I don't know where this is going to go. This was so uncalled for. So yeah, bye.